44. War Day 6. Mumbling spree and a therapy season. I woke up in a sleeping bag and remembered what happened. Why did I let loose of my sanity? Whose idea was that in the first place? Oh right, mine. I wanted to let myself lose for a little bit by shutting down a part of my rationality. Great idea, I thought. Nothing could get wrong, I thought. Oh boy, how wrong I was. First I cut myself without noticing. Then I took it to a whole new level and start hurting others, nearly killing them? At least I know now how dangerous it is to shut down a part of me. Never will I do this again. I opened my eyes and began shifting. Soon I realized that I was in a sleeping bag. Once I opened my eyes and saw that I was in my villain lair. I could feel something beneath my head. It wasn't a cushion that much I could tell. I turned my head and was met with Aizawa's concerned face. Aizawa. You okay, there? Me. Yeah. Wait, I was laying on my teacher's lap? I immediately sat up and tried to get out of the sleeping bag but failed miserably. Aizawa was chuckling at my clumsiness. Aizawa. Let me help you, problem child. Me. Ah, thanks. He helped me get out of the sleeping bag and I sat near him. I wonder how long was I asleep? When did I fall asleep anyway? Me. Mumbling. I am so sorry for being a burden to you, Aizawa-sensei. I never intended to go that far. Normally I have my sanity in check, I swear. What I did was a miscalculation on my part. I should have never let myself lose completely. Aizawa. Kid. Me. Mumbling. I never wanted to hurt Aoyama that bad. Sure, I wanted to scare him and maybe even teach him a lesson. I mean, I wanted to teach everyone a lesson since they were looking down on quirkless people. Aizawa. Problem child. Me. Mumbling. That's why I decided to let myself lose and shut down a part of my rationality. I thought it would be a nice change to let all my emotion get the better of me, but it obviously wasn't. I probably should have thought about it better before I decided to do this. If only I never had decided on it, then I wouldn't have hurt them so badly. Aizawa. Izuku. Me. Still mumbling. Thankfully, I didn't kill anyone. I am sure I would have done it without doubt. I mean, I hurt Bakugo really badly and I am not sorry for it, since he was such a bitch. I don't regret doing it and I would do it again if I had the chance. He never apologized to me too after he tortured me for years. He deserves it. He was always telling me I couldn't be a hero seeing my quirkless status, and you know what he also told me? He fucking told me to swan dive of a roof. Aizawa. Midoriya. Me. Mumbling spree. Can you believe that a future hero told a broken child to do that? It was tempting to say the least, and I found myself multiple times thinking about it, but never did I do it for real. Scratch that, that's not true. I jumped in front of Uraraka some days ago. Well, let's say it wasn't a fun experience and I could have passed on it. Aizawa. Midoriya. Me. Aizawa. You were mumbling. Me. Oh, I am so sorry, Aizawa-sensei, I didn't realize it. I am so sorry. Aizawa. It's fine. Besides, what did you say about your sanity, problem child? Me. Nothing much? It was more like a question than an answer since I couldn't remember how much I talked about it in my mumbling spree. I hope that he did too. However, that wasn't the case apparently. Aizawa. That's more a question than an answer. Me. Maybe. Seeing as I didn't want to talk about it for obvious reasons, I stopped speaking. You really expecting me to answer? You serious? Like who wants to talk about their sanity? Aizawa. What did you mean by you had your sanity in check and that you shut down your ration part? Me. Do I need to answer? Aizawa. Cite yes, you do. Me. But why? Aizawa. Because you were happy to kill someone. Me. I didn't kill anyone, only nearly killed 2 people. Aizawa. Yeah, only nearly killed someone. To be honest with you, Izu, that doesn't make it better. Now answer my question. Me. What question? And that's how you not evade a question. I began panicking a little bit. I didn't like to talk about my mental problems, but again, who does that? Aizawa raised an eyebrow at me. Aizawa. You know exactly what question I referred to, problem child. Me. Sigh. Fine. It took some moments for me to think how to describe it in the best way possible for him to not think that I was completely insane. Which I might be, but I was pretty sure I wasn't insane, at least not yet. What I experience in my life wasn't something everyone did. It was only something quirkless people get to feel like, and even then, it was a wonder that I am still alive and semi-normal. The suicide rate of quirkless people was high, and by that I mean very high. I do have my bad days where I could hear the voices of my past haunting and taunting me to kill myself, but I usually ignore them or cut myself. The sensation of pain helps bringing me back from whatever place I was. Sometimes I could see some shadow people in the corner of my sight. They never came close to me or did anything besides being there. I always would feel like they would mock me, and they always were there before I could hear the voices, kinda like a pre-warning. Besides these two things, I was pretty sane that I had no other problems at all. That is if you don't count my personal problems in. I had a huge problem with Bakugo, and every time I see that angry Pomeranian I remember the past, and all I want is to beat the living crap out of him. He needs to feel how it would be like to not be able to defend myself. How it was like to be useless by his definition. Thanks to my mother, I was involved in some minor crimes. The reason she thought it was a good idea for me to have a gun was only to help her and her friend's sometime short-time boyfriend to either stay outside a building and be the lookout or get into a building and steal something. Since most of her boyfriends were gang members, I had to learn at some point to have a very good aim with the gun and to be quick on my feet if I didn't want to be dead. My fighting skills came along since some of my mother's boyfriend would taught me some moves only to be a better opponent. The stealth part came from the stealing. The gangs had a name for me as well. They would call me Ghost since no one ever saw me stealing something nor caught me. I also don't really eat much or sleep much. In my sleep, I would get haunted by nightmares, and every time I would wake up covered in sweat. My mother didn't bother to get me food. I always needed to prepare it for her, but also wasn't allowed to touch it. Every 1 or 2 weeks I would get something to eat at home. Since the food in UO was free, I now had a warm meal every day. I had also a bad experience with being tied up, so I always panic being tied up tightly and not able to move one bit. That would almost every time trigger a panic attack. I don't know how to cope with my anger and sometimes anxiety I feel. So instead, I just ignore it most of the times, but sometimes when it's too much for me I can hear voices in my head, and it can get worse to shadow people mocking me. Normally this doesn't happen too often, just once every month or so. My rationality keeps me from getting insane. I needed a little break. I wasn't facing him anymore. I looked down at my hands and began speaking again. Before we started this exercise, I already decided to let myself loose and just run wild. This resulted in me shutting a part of my rational part down, which was intended to keep my emotions caged up. As you can see from the results, that wasn't the best thing I could do. Aizawa. Why would you do that in the first place? I looked up at him, to see if he really meant the question. To my surprise he did. How should I have coped with suicide baiting, spider lilies, daily beating and bullying else? There was no one I could turn to. I just ignored or buried my feelings somewhere inside of me instead. Aizawa. You could have. I could have what? I was legally registered as quirkless. Do you know what that even means? No one believes a quirkless child, no one cares about them. All they think is that they would do things only to get attention. I tried to get help multiple times but gave up at some point and accepted my fate. No one cared to listen or even to look at me, at my wounds. Tears were flowing down my cheek once again this day. My voice cracked as I spoke. I looked at Aizawa and saw how angry he was. His eyes were filled with a burning rage I knew too well from Bakugo. It was one with murderous intentions. I am sorry. I know that you will probably expel me after this exercise is done. After all, what I have done couldn't be possibly count as heroism anymore. I can understand very well how angry you are at me for torturing your class, my classmates and my best friend, your adoptive son. Aizawa. I am not mad you and I won't expel you. Why would I do that, problem child? You are one of my best students. I am angry at the people who treated you like that. There is obviously something wrong with them. I am sorry you suffered so much, without anyone helping you. However, I want you to know that these days are long gone. You have us now, kid. If you have any problems, talk to me or Mike or even Nezu. I am sure that Rat would gladly tear down the whole world for you, if needed. We are here for you, problem child. I don't know what to say. Aizawa. You don't need to. And please come to me if you feel like you can't cope with your emotions. Bottling them up is never a good idea. Me. That I figured out the hard way. Aizawa. I have another question. Me. If that's something about my mental health, then I would rather not talk about it now. This is not supposed to be a therapy season. Aizawa. I understand and know it's not. How did you know that Shinso was my adoptive son? Me. Ahm. For legal reasons I won't answer that one. Aizawa. Fair enough. I now have at least an idea.